Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailysheeple.com, and this is your news shot. So to John Rappaport's blog we go. He's talking about education, and specifically how the state weaponizes education to create ignorance. A very important topic, and it's coming to a head now more than ever, especially with the heightened costs of tuitions and everything else for alternatives to the indoctrination centers. It's a very important topic indeed. It says 150 years ago, at least some Americans recognized that all serious discourse depended on the use of the faculty called reason. Formal debate, science, and law all flowed from that source. A common bond existed in some schools of the day. The students were expected to learn how reason operates, and for that he was taught the only subject which could lay out, as on a long table, the visible principles. And that, my friends, is logic. And this was accepted. But now this bond is gone. The independence engendered by the discipline study of logic is no longer a desired quality in students. The classroom, you see, at best is taken on the appearance of a fact memorization factory. And we should express grave doubts about the relevance and truth of many of those facts. Absolutely. The public school systems have now become a teach the test type of place simply because their funding is tied to the success of these standardized tests. So teachers aren't really allowed to, perhaps come up with their own curriculum. No. Not like it used to be, where they had to come up with their own ideas, their own curriculum, and once they figured it out, well, hey, it was good. Then they just tweak it as they go along. No, then it was given to them. And then, these No Child Left Behind laws come about, and you tie federal funding to it, and it's just been a disaster, an absolute disaster. And children just aren't ready to, or mature enough to handle life when they become an adult. And, of course, this is all done by design. He says a society filled with people who float in the drift of non-logic is a society that declines. Exactly what we're seeing today. Ideologies that deny individual freedom and independence are welcomed with open arms. And when education becomes so degraded that young students are no longer taught to reason clearly, private citizens have the obligation to rebuild that system so the great contribution to Western civilization, logic, is reinstated in its rightful place. Logic, my friends, the key by which true political discourse, science, and law were in fact originally developed, must be unearthed. Logic and reasoning, the capacity to think, the ability to analyze ideas, and the ability which has been long forgotten, which has been a surpassing virtue in every free civilization, has to be restored. And once a vital thing has been misplaced or buried or covered over by mindless substitutions, people can't immediately recognize the original thing has any importance or meaning or existence. To declare its importance makes no sense to the crowd. They look bewildered and shake their heads. They search for their memories and they find nothing. This is something that happens quite often when you talk about the crowd. Groupthink is extremely pervasive in public school. So one has to, if you do go down this road, you're going to be an outcast. You know, that's one thing that we have to really kind of confront here as things go on. A common bond existed in some schools of the day. Really, the student was expected to learn how reason operates, and for that, he was taught the only subject, logic. Logic. It was huge. Still, today, now more than ever, it's just void. Absolutely void. Now, these habits that are formed, rumors, gossip, accusation, wild speculation, all of this in the public discourse just highlights the void of logic in our society. And it's really too bad. You know, these habits that people are developing, they set forth a path, if you will. It's very hard to change once you go down this road. People become programmed. They become automatons. And it's very hard to change. I mean, how many of you out there have tried to change the habits of those that you might consider not in the know or not paying attention? You find it very difficult. Those that are stuck in the materialistic world of today, very hard to come out from that groupthink, from those societal standards that are out there. A good highlight of that would be, in my eyes, something that's very controversial, the Declaration of Independence and standing up for the national anthem. Right? A lot of people think, well, that's the height of disrespect to all our veterans out there. Well, I can tell you as a veteran, that's one of the reasons that we sign up to sacrifice that time, or so we thought, is to protect the rights of those that don't want to stand, that want to maybe voice their dissent or their dissenting opinions because the country may be on the wrong track, so they don't want to stand for it. That's not disrespect to me. It's just them communicating their dislike for the course we're on. I don't see a problem with that. A lot of people do, but that kind of restriction on the ability of people to be able to say what they want and to protest is exactly what third world countries do, these dictatorships. So when I see this, that's very troubling to me. And again, it's a product of our broken school systems. Now, it says here, to win out over such attachments and superstitions is a job for the long term. But if our labors yield rewards, we can once again bring import to education and to the idea of authentic freedom that once cuts a wide swath through the darkness. Now, it says here, a string of direct and distracting abuses have saddled our schools. Among them, teachers believe they need to entertain children in order to capture their attention. School systems have substituted the need for public funds in place of actually supplying a sound education. Absolutely. John writes, under the banner of political correctness, school texts have been sanitized to the point of sterility in order to avoid the possibility of offending to even the slightest degree any group. Students rarely confront information in the form in which it's delivered to people all over the world. They confront substitutes. Students have in the past, have in this respect, been coddled. Subjects like sex education, which belongs in the family, have been delivered into the hands of schools and teachers. Indeed, in certain aspects, schools are asked to substitute and stand in for parents. Actually, that happens more often than not. Schools actually are a daycare center. So mom and dad can go to work because mom and dad have to work these days. The basis on which every historic document establishing some degree of freedom was debated and drafted, logically thought, has been eliminated from this curriculum as a serious discipline. Students are permitted and even encouraged to drift and grasp at superficially attractive ideas and fads of the moment. In this respect, freedom has been reinterpreted to mean, quote, mental incapacity and wandering thought. The vast contributions of the ancient Greek civilizations, where logic as a crucial subject was born, has been obliterated, minimized, or even summarized in sterile fashion. Logic, the connective tissue which binds together the progression of ideas and rational argument, has been kept away from students. The result is the production of shallow minds that cannot see the architecture of the reasoning. Students at sea begin to invent wholly insufficient standards for accepting or rejecting various points of view and supposed authorities. Students even lose their true independence without ever having gained it. And the low level of overall literacy in our schools is matched only by the non-comprehension of rational thought. In the presence of these and other deficiencies and abuses, students are pushed through from grade to grade, graduation to graduation as a bureaucratic function, regardless of their ability. And therefore, citizens of good intent must offload this system. They must assume responsibility for teaching children the missing key to education. Logic, the capacity to reason, to think lucidly, to separate sense from chatter, to discover deception and avoid being influenced by it, to remain free and independent from the shifting opinion of the herd, and to maintain personal liberty in the face of every spurious enticement to abandon it. Even to come to grips with competitive sets of first principles which will lead to freedom or slavery. These are what's at stake now. This is the crossroad, and choosing the path that can bring us the fulfillment of a worthy goal. Choose reason over mindlessness. We who still know the power of the mind and who understand how that power can be harnessed to shape independence and liberty can bring out of the dust of recent history an education that truly trains the intellect. Logic, my friends, is the foundation of such an education, and if schools, which have become madhouses and factories and toxic medical dispensaries, will not teach it, we have to teach it. That was John Rappaport, and I think it's a very important message, one that I think is sorely underlooked because of the fact that we blindly trust the state to take care of our children. And really, that's our responsibility as parents, to train them in these disciplines so that when they do become adults, they become responsible, mature adults, capable of critical and rational thought. And these days, we're finding that trait sorely lacking. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. Hashtag wake the flock up. Have a great day, everybody.